Good evening, everyone, commissioners and staff. This is our regular meeting of the Urbana Community Development Commission, and we have an agenda for this evening's meeting. Prior to the meeting, we're supposed to have a public hearing, but there is no one here for that hearing. So I will declare the public hearing opened and closed. Is that appropriate? Yeah. You need to do the formal thing? Okay. Well, I'll go through the formality of the public hearing. The purpose of the public hearing is to provide an opportunity for the public to provide input and comments regarding the proposed amendment to the City of Urbana and Urbana Home Consortium Annual Action Plan for fiscal year 2013-2014 and fiscal year 2014-2015. Notice of this public hearing was placed on the city website May 27, 2016, and faxed and emailed to the media, various social service agencies, and citizens on May 27, 2016. I now declare this public hearing open. If anyone desires to express their views regarding the proposed amendment to the annual action plans for fiscal year 2013-14 and fiscal year 2014-15, please come forward and be recognized. Okay. Seeing that there are no persons present for the hearing, I now declare this public hearing closed.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now we'll proceed to our community development meeting. And first on our agenda is call to order. I now call this Community Development Commission meeting to order. Next, we have roll call.
Fred Cobb.
Here.
Janice Bankston.
Here.
Brian Cunningham. Chris Diana.
Here.
Ann Hines Silvis. Lauren Carplus. Jerry Moreland.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, next, we have approval or correction of the minutes from May 24th, Community Development Commission regular meeting. I'll allow a couple of minutes for review of those minutes, after which I'll entertain a motion for approval or corrections. Okay, is everyone finished?
What happened with the community elements? That was on the agenda. I wasn't here last time. It's in the minutes at the bottom of page 4 about
Yeah.
the community elements, and I wondered what they were doing with the money.
They had extra money that was not spent. Yeah. So they were going to see that the money is spent better.
Yes, plus there's also going to be a merger between Community Elements and Rosecrans. And so we have to amend the agreement to show the merger per our legal department.
Okay, everyone finished reading? If so, I'll entertain a motion for approval. Someone would like to make a motion?
I move we approve the minutes of the last meeting as written.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes from May 24, 2016. Any comments? I'd like to make a comment about minutes. The minutes are so thorough, they're very good minutes. In fact, it's got more than minutes in it. So I was thinking that it might be retitled Minutes and Further Explanation of Issues. So, but anyway,
Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah,
very
well, I was the one that did the minutes, but we'll see how they go because now we're going to have Dawn do the minutes. So we'll see. They'll probably be as thorough and as good as.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
so-
all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the minutes are approved as written. Okay, next on our agenda, we have petitions and communications. Do we have any written communication?
No, we don't.
Okay, next, audience participation. We don't have an audience. Next, staff report.
Okay. The staff report was in your packet, and basically the only thing is that from HUD we had a conference call, and there we have one finding left that we need to correct, which we are working on, and then we will be completely done with everything that they monitored, which will be great.
And finding means what?
It means, a finding means that some regulation, be it, since it was the home program, be one of the regulations that govern the home program, we did not follow that regulation for whatever reason. So, example, and a lot of it had to do with the home rule was revised and updated, and us, and including a lot of other home entitlement communities, had not incorporated all that into your policies and procedures yet, and so that's what we are doing, is getting those, and we've done most of them, policies and procedures, updating our agreements. I think that's actually the last thing. They are wanting a lot of detail in the agreements, and so we're working with getting that information.
What is the last one finding left to correct?
The subrecipient agreements. They want more detail than what we had given them, and so we are working. They actually finally sent us examples of the type of information that we need, so we'll be able to get that taken care of, and then we'll be good. We'll be done. So that's the only thing we received from HUD, and then you can see all the different accomplishments and activities that staff, myself and the other staff. This is getting close to the end of the fiscal year, so we're working on closing things in this fiscal year and working toward setting up activities for next fiscal year. And then it shows also the different meetings that we attended. So that is our staff report. Let me know if you have any questions.
Okay, any questions? If not, we will proceed. Thank you very much. Okay, I was wondering, that one finding, does that stop anything or slow down anything?
No,
Okay,
no, we're able to proceed with commitments and what we need to do.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, next we have old business, and we have nothing under old business. So we'll go to new business. First, under new business, a resolution approving modifications to the City of Urbana and Urbana Home Consortium fiscal year 2013-14 and fiscal year 2014-15 annual action plans, and in parentheses, Highland Green. Someone want to go into that?
Sure. So what this is we have to amend our annual action plans anytime that, per our consolidated plan and our citizen participation within our consolidated plan, we have to, when we allocate more funds to a project or add a project or make any kind of substantial changes to budgets or whatever is in our annual action plan, then we have to do an amendment to those annual action plan. And so this is what I was talking about, that we had found funds that carryover funds from these two fiscal years with regard to the home budget and our community development block grant. So what we're doing is bringing this for you so that you can review and send to council, because it has to be approved by council before we can submit the substantial amendment to HUD. So the second page shows the changes, the funds that we're using carryover under the home program and also under the community development block grant, funds that either carry over or are not spent. And so together, these funds will go to Highland Green to help with that project. So that's basically it in a nutshell. And if there's any,
The city no longer owns it, right?
we still do. We haven't transferred the property yet.
Will you have to set aside the money until the sale has been made?
No, we are allowed to commit the money and enter into, for home, we're allowed to enter into a commitment with the developer to provide them with the funding prior to actually transferring the property. So we are able to tell HUD that we are able to commit the almost $300,000 to this project.
And how much are they committing to?
The developer, they're supporting about $7 million other dollars that they've raised on their own. So these funds are really sort of a gap funding. It's filling in what they're not able to get with the funding that they have.
And this goes along with the agreements that we did. So this is kind of all in tandem at the same time. It's these annual action plan amendments.
Okay. My understanding from reading some of this is because the money is needed because some more work needs to be done than was initially anticipated. There are some items that were not initially anticipated that have to be addressed. Is that correct or not?
Are you talking about like on the
This-
developer's side?
No, this 291,000 is to cover items that were not initially identified.
Well, it's the developer's budget and the costs continue to rise, and we noticed through their budget that they don't have much of a contingency or a reserve, a surplus. And with that in mind, we think it's especially appropriate that we contribute our federal funds to sort of supplement the funding that they've brought to the table.
Right. We already in the annual action plan had the Kerr Avenue sustainable development. What we're doing is we are like increasing the amount of money into that project that we already had in our annual action plans because of the carryover funds that we found.
Were there many buyers? Was there just one entity that was interested in buying it for $10?
Yes, it's just the developer that has been chosen
And-
for this project.
Yeah, we had
It's
an,
on the open market.
yeah, we did have an RFP maybe about 3 years ago, and we had several developers that had applied, and we had a committee that was formed to determine which of the developers were going to be chosen. And so the ones that Brinshaw is the one that was chosen by the group made of different people in our department and I think some other departments. So it was a citywide and chose them based on the information that they provided, the number of units and the cost and stuff like that. So, and they've been trying since then to get the low-income housing tax credits, which is why it has taken them a little longer to do that. So,
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, can you help me out a little bit with these numbers here, because for some reason, they're not making sense to me.
okay.
Okay. I mean, in the upper section there, that basically reads like a renaming of funds. It's, the top
Okay.
part there, it has housing rehab funds from 13-14 and 14-15.
Right. And they were the funds that we had used program income instead, so
Right.
we had those funds available.
Right.
And together, those add up to the 291,580. Okay.
Well,
Minus,
they don't.
right.
Yeah.
They subtracted 16,000.
Okay, so what we're doing is we are taking the full 158,362.26 and zeroing out that line. And then you take the 149,981 and subtract the 16,763.26. And so that amount plus the 158 should equal the 291.
Okay, that's not the way it reads, though. I mean,
Right.
As a number, it reads that you are changing the 158,000 to zero, and 149,000 to 16,700, and then it still somehow comes out as 291, so it doesn't really make any sense,
Okay.
if you're following what I mean. It's not listed as an adjustment or as a minus there. Proposed amended means changed, so 158,000 is changing to zero, the way that actually reads. So I'm just wondering if it doesn't need to be clarified there as to exactly what's,
So who else will see this? You might-
well,
might ask.
yeah, I guess so. I would assume that anybody who sees it, who's reading the numbers, would read them the same way I am, and
Okay.
they just don't make sense as numbers to me. Not the way they're written there. They're all written as positive numbers, there's no deductions, et cetera.
Okay.
So I know what you were trying to get at with it,
Right.
but it doesn't read that way to me.
Right. And this is in looking at previous memos, this
Yeah.
was how we did it. But you're right, it could cause some confusion.
I would think so. I
So-
mean, and I kind of have a feeling exactly, I mean, the bottom looks the same way too, the second section of numbers, the CDBG ones. Again, they're kind of confusing. If one was, there's no negative numbers there, there's no change totals, they all look like positives, so they don't really make a whole lot of sense, to me, at least. That may just be me. I'm not alone.
We have a new finance person here. So we can take care of it.
There you go.
Yeah, I should have had him do the memo instead. Okay, so,
Tell me about the multi-use path.
The developer is planning a connection between the proposed development, Highland Green, and the neighboring Crystal View townhomes. The developer's the same. They develop both properties, so they're trying to increase accessibility between the two as much as possible. But there's actually an elevation difference between the two, which is making it somewhat difficult. But they're going to try to make connectivity as easy as possible, so someone could walk or bike or use any other means of, I guess, non-motorized transportation.
I think she's talking about in regards to what the multi-use path is listed
Oh.
here, and this would
That's
be
different. Sorry.
funds that were not spent on the project. So that's considered carryover, and that's why it's showing a zero. And I did go back and I subtracted the 16,763 from the 149 and making it 133,217.74. Added that to the 158, and it came to the 291,580. So, but you're right.
Yeah, I think if a couple of those just show as the negative numbers that they are.
Yeah, and I can make sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
I will definitely make a note that next time we have to amend, that I will show negative, or in parentheses, or.
Will the path be on the property that's being walked?
No, this is a path that was done several years ago that connected down in the Learman Avenue, Learman neighborhood area.
remember that.
Right, and not all of the funds allocated to that were spent on that. We were able to complete that project. So these are funds that were left over from that project that we're using, reallocating toward Highland Green. But that project was completed, the multipath, and we had a
And
dedication.
it's been successful.
Yes, a lot of people have used it. Yes, it's very nice. Yes, I have pictures I can certainly send and show you. It looks very nice. So very wide, lots of light, lots of flowers and stuff. So it's definitely being used for its
I knew
purpose.
that was the plans, I didn't know if they came to fulfillment. or
Yes, yes, they did. Yes, the neighborhood was very excited about that. So anyway, so these are funds that were left over, and so we're using them for this project.
Okay.
If I may ask a question, if they're from that same neighborhood, be a number of residents that want to do that same sort of thing to connect one of the area apartments, I can't think of the name, but they're interested, and they've expressed it to me personally, of an interest of connecting Philo Road, access to Philo Road to the, and I can't think of the name of the, but it's,
Is that the Aspen Court area?
I want to say yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe that is something that when Aspen Court Urbana Townhomes project,
Right.
I believe that is something that's being considered as part of that.
Right, right. I just wanted to mention, I mean, since we're reallocating the funds, I
Mm-hmm.
thought I'd,
Right, yeah, that's something that the Learman Neighborhood Action Committee had
Right.
mentioned at some of the meetings with the developer and the city about that project. So, so yes, once that project begins, which at this point we're not sure when the date would be, but that would be something that we would definitely be looking at, because that was something that was that the neighborhood said that they wanted, and so,
I mean, that kind of helps the residents with the bus line
yes.
and
Yes.
access. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay, with this issue, we have three options: to forward the resolution approving the modifications to the City of Urbana and Urbana Home Consortium fiscal year 2013-14 and 2014-15 annual action plans to the Urbana City Council with a recommendation for approval, or recommended with to the council with the recommendations for some additions or changes, or we not recommend this for approval. Fiscal impact, again, it says there's no fiscal impact on the city budget, but our discussion here also indicates that there's no impact on CDBG or home programs.
Right, and that is also listed under here,
Yeah.
that it will not impact as its carryover funds from previous years.
Okay. And, yeah, under programmatic impacts. Okay, so the staff recommends that we approve this ordinance. Is there a motion?
I so move.
Okay, it's been moved that we forward this resolution approving the modifications to the Urbana City Council with a recommendation for approval. Is there a second?
A second.
There is a second. So we have a motion and a second to, for a recommendation of approval. Any questions, comments? If not, all in favor say aye. Oh, you have a comment?
The only comment would be, do you think that you can modify those numbers for them when you send them over, just so, in case city council reading it? Super.
Yes, I've made a note to make it show negative numbers and stuff, so yes.
It's showing a little bit different in this portion too, those numbers.
Yeah.
But they could be clear. Any other comments, questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the motion carries. Okay, next, we have an ordinance authorizing the sale of certain real estate, which is 401 to 403 East Kerr Avenue. Would someone like to delve into that?
So what's going on with that ordinance is that we would, after discussing with the developer and the developer's attorney, we thought that it would be best to give them more time to review the documents, and that we would undertake the actual transfer of the property closer to when they anticipate closing in August. So we will be able to sign the home agreement, which will meet our commitment deadline for home, but we don't face any deadlines or any other HUD-imposed issues if we hold off on transferring the property until a later date when the developer and their attorneys are more comfortable doing so. So with that in mind, we want to recommend continuing this item to the next meeting.
And make it as old business.
Yep.
Because of the developer's attorney wanting to review the documents further.
I see. Okay, I had a question. Who is actually going to pay for this property? Who's going to give the city some money? You say the sale of...
Well, it will be a sale. I'm not really sure. We're actually still working on the structure of that. And also since the developer is sort of a, I don't know, a consortium of different Homestead, the Housing Authority, and Brinshaw, we're still working with the legal division to finalize who exactly does the property need to be transferred to, and then what kind of a price goes along with that. Although I'm thinking it's going to be, I think it was in there, very minimal. It's effectively a donation, but I think structured as a sale. But we're still working on that.
Yeah, we thought that we would have all of the agreement and everything completed and reviewed by them, and that we could bring it. And I think it was like yesterday they contacted and said we actually need more time to review all this.
Oh.
So.
So this will go to July's meeting?
Yes, it would. Yeah, we would have it as old business,
Yeah.
and we would put under old business.
All right.
I believe. Yes.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, I guess no action is needed on that at this time then. Okay, with that, we have exhausted our agenda for tonight. Do any commissioners want to bring up anything else at this time? Any staff? Want to bring up anything?
No?
If not, I declare this meeting adjourned, and thank you for your participation. Okay.
Thank you.